Hitchcock produced several films of powerful interest in his first decade in Hollywood, but by anybody's reckoning, Notorious would be among the most masterful. Probably the most often cited sequence is the dinner party scene involving all that clever byplay with keys and champagne bottles. It is a brilliant piece of cinema, no doubt, but I've long felt that another sequence is just as dazzling. Devlin's rescue of Alicia from Sebastian's mansion is a stretch of virtuoso filmmaking, one of Hitchcock's greatest accomplishments. For one thing, it shows his skill in packing a scene with suspense and anxiety. It also has a taut passion, disproving those critics who consider Hitchcock merely a cold technician.
No, I had to see you once speak my piece. I was getting out because I love you.
It shows how one sequence can weave together narrative and stylistic threads that have run through the whole movie. And not least, it shows some general aspects of 1940s Hollywood studio filmmaking at their most captivating. Most classically constructed features include two primary lines of action, one devoted to romance, the other often devoted to work. The rescue scene in Notorious is no exception. It's the culmination of both the love affair and the spy intrigue.
Are you going out this afternoon, Alex?
No, my dear, I have some...
Earlier, Alex Sebastian and his mother have discovered that Alicia is an American agent, and they've set out to poison her slowly so that their Nazi friends won't discover Alex's blunder in marrying her. She shows up groggy at her final meeting with her handler, Devlin.
You don't look so hot.
And at first, he thinks she's hungover. Throughout, he's been using her alcoholism as an excuse to punish her for marrying Sebastian.
Hangover.
Though he could have prevented it by telling her of his love for her.
That's news. Back to the bottle again, huh?
On this night, though, he suspects she's actually sick.
Mrs. Sebastian is very ill and confined to her bed.
He's come to the mansion to investigate.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Go on, Professor.
This coincides with Sebastian meeting with his associates to discuss the possibility that they're under suspicion by American agents.
When I left the bank, a man was following me.
Devlin sneaks upstairs, finds Alicia very ill, and confesses his love.
I'm so glad you came.
This gives her the strength to stagger downstairs with his help. She can transmit the crucial information about the uranium the Germans had discovered. The couple brazenly escapes under the eyes of the Nazis, abandoning Sebastian to his fate. Today, a comparable film would probably have Devlin laying waste to the mansion in a massive gunfight. And at the screenplay stage, such a shootout was considered. But Hitchcock, who preferred suspense to large-scale violence, conducts this whole thrilling sequence without a single punch or gunshot.
Well, what am I going to do, start shooting?
Its power depends upon a magisterial use of film techniques, techniques that have been subtly prepared for throughout the film. Devlin's rescue brought in one of the most prominent conventions of contemporary thrillers. 1940s films often built their plots around husbands who are plotting to get rid of their wives. The most famous example is probably Gaslight, which features a man trying to drive his wife mad. The wife was played by Ingrid Bergman. We find murderous husbands in The Two Mrs. Carrolls, Sleep My Love, and many other domestic thrillers. Hitchcock had earlier made a film that summons up this situation, Suspicion. You can argue there's similar impulses there in Uncle Charlie's efforts to eliminate his niece in Shadow of a Doubt. Hitchcock would later make a pure example of the uxoricide plot in Dial M for Murder. Most of these plots feature a third character, what film scholar Diane Waldman calls a helper male. He's a solid fellow who can assist the victimized wife in escaping. The helper male is also there to provide a new romantic partner to replace the villainous husband. The last half hour or so of Notorious turns into one of these films of marital homicide. Leaving the central love affair behind, we follow the scheme of Sebastian and his mother to gradually poison Alicia.
But it must happen slowly. If she could become ill.
In this context, Devlin plays the role of helper male. Devlin's rescue of her amounts to abducting another man's wife. Hitchcock underlines this challenge to lawful matrimony during the couple's intense embrace. She lifts her hand to stroke Devlin's hair, reminding us of her wedding ring.
Oh, you love me.
But like the chivalrous detective in Gaslight or the concerned friend in Sleep My Love, Devlin can be forgiven for breaking up a marriage. He has saved a life, and he offers himself as a proper mate. Hitchcock came to America under the auspices of David O. Selznick, and it seems that the producer influenced the director in several ways. Not least, Hitchcock's films became more romantic, even sexy. The swooning Gothic atmosphere of Rebecca is the most obvious early example. And by casting hard-eyed charmers like Laurence Olivier, Joseph Cotten, and Cary Grant in his thrillers, he created more dashing, magnetic heroes than we find in his 1930s British films. Spellbound was saturated in lush, women's magazine romanticism, complete with the thawed heroine imagining doors opening when she's properly kissed. The sizzle was turned up in Notorious. The Hays Code warned against, quote, excessive or lustful kissing, end quote.
One for me.
In a blow against censorship, Hitchcock provides 2.5 minutes of close-up necking. The production code limited a kiss to 3 seconds, so Hitchcock has his lovers share brief kisses. But the kisses are so plentiful, and they're delivered so playfully, that a teasing, erotic charge is built up. Devlin and Alicia, locked in a tight embrace, kissing and clinging to each other, make their way balletically across a room. They even sustain their clinch through a phone conversation. The result became one of the film's high points, both at the time and ever after. Dorothy Kilgallen, who called them, quote, the most relentless kisses ever recorded on celluloid, end quote, went on to remark, let's face it, long after the storyline is forgotten, Notorious will be remembered as the picture in which Ingrid Bergman gnawed at Cary Grant as if he were a pound of fresh caviar. Any audience that sits through it, without murmuring at least, is darn sophisticated or dead.
Good. Read it to me, please.
With his usual care, Hitchcock prepared for this bravura display of playful passion. At the opening party, Devlin and Alicia are already nearly nuzzling as she leans into his face flirtatiously.
That's right.
On the plane, their conversation ends with a sudden thrust of her face against his, and just before the dissolve, he turns his head, nearly grazing her as he stares at her profile. These moments serve to tantalize us before the consummation in the apartment, when the lovers virtually melt into each other. But the real moment of consummation comes in our bedroom rescue. Devlin leans over Alicia and then lies briefly beside her, as if taking Sebastian's place in the wedding bed.
What is it, dear? What's wrong with you?
When Alicia tells him she's being poisoned, Devlin starts and then lifts her up in his arms. His tender but resolute embrace now shows his devotion. And just as the apartment scene was shot in a long, tight take, his confession of love and her joy in hearing it are presented in 3 lengthy, sinuous shots. One of them even circles the couple in its own embracing gesture. This reuniting of the couple is presented as voluptuously as the earlier scene was, but now with the overtone of danger. How will they escape? The rescue scene has a structural neatness that reflects Hitchcock's love of symmetries. In The Birds, Lydia Brenner goes to visit Dan Fawcett. She drives up, meets another farmer, goes inside, and finds Dan horribly pecked to death. She bolts out, runs back, gasps without speaking as she passes the farmer, and drives away. Boxes within boxes, almost maniacal in their precision, conceal a gory corpse at their center. A similar boxes in boxes neatness is on display in our rescue scene. That begins with Devlin arriving at the mansion seen from the outside. He goes to the vestibule where he meets Joseph and waits. Then he heads upstairs and pauses on a landing. At the heart of the scene lies Alicia in delirious agony. Hitchcock and Heck could have had the couple sneak out a back way or try dropping down from the window. Instead, the penetration pattern reverses itself with new emphases. Devlin and Alicia move to the landing, where they confront Alex and his mother. They descend the stair and wind up at the hallway.
Help him, Alex.
They leave as Devlin came in, and they keep Alex out of the car. Now he stands outside where Devlin first appeared, and he must face his associates. The mansion door closes in an echo of the scene's opening. Part of the satisfaction of this final shot, I'm convinced, comes from the fact that an image that seemed innocuous and merely functional earlier, in story terms, just telling us that Devlin has arrived, becomes ominously magnified at the close. Hitchcock once said, suspense doesn't apply merely to melodrama or mystery. You can very well utilize suspense in a love story. In fact, you had very well better if you want the audience to hang around long enough to see reel 7. Hitchcock was a theorist of suspense. He distinguished between a situation in which we're tied to what a character knows and one in which we know more than the character does. If we're restricted to the character's range of knowledge, a new piece of information can be a surprise. But Hitchcock preferred suspense, which entailed putting a character in danger and then at judicious moments letting us know more than the character does.
Tell me, when did you first feel sick?
More broadly, this means that at crucial moments, Hitchcock moves from character to character, giving us more information than any of them have. The rescue scene depends crucially on patterns of attachment and character knowledge established from the film's start. Early in Notorious, we're mostly attached to Alicia. With her, we gradually learn Devlin's identity and the mission he proposes. Things start to diverge on the plane trip to Rio. We see Alicia in her seat at the window, but we're given a glimpse of Devlin and his boss Prescott talking behind her.
I'll tell her. See you later.
The information they have, that Mr. Huberman has committed suicide, is given to us when Alicia learns of it, but already our range of knowledge is widened. The conversation between Devlin and Prescott sets up their relationship.
You'll be seeing him in Rio.
Later, we'll watch the American agents' meetings apart from Alicia. The most crucial meeting of the American agents takes place on the night of Alicia's romantic dinner. Instead of staying with her in the apartment, we follow Devlin to meet with Prescott. We learn of the specific task she's being assigned. Now Hitchcockian suspense kicks in.
Sebastian's house is a cover-up for whatever this Farben group's up to here in Rio. We've got to get Miss Huberman inside that house and find out what's going on there.
We know, as she does not, what's expected of her, and we can wait in anticipation to see how the couple will negotiate the new terms of their relationship. Answer, not well.
Doesn't mean anything anymore. It goes so sweet. One has the feeling of connection.
Earlier, though, Hitchcock has already widened our ken. After Emil's blunder about the wine bottle, we're privy to the gang's meeting in which they consider how to eliminate him. This is a crucial scene because it not only confirms Alicia's intuition that something is up with the bottle, it also establishes the great danger Sebastian will be in if his partners in crime discover that he's married a secret agent. This widening of our range of knowledge comes to include Sebastian in a more thoroughgoing way. After the party, he investigates the wine cellar and finds the clues that Alicia and Devlin tried to cover up. Tormented, he confesses to his mother,
I am married to an American agent.
and they concoct their scheme to kill Alicia slowly. This series of scenes fulfills the tell-all function Hitchcock ascribed to suspense. We must know the danger Alicia's in before she does, so that we can wait tensely and wonder how she can elude it. If we had stayed solely with her, her collapse on the terrace might have come as a big surprise, but Hitchcock would have forfeited all that buildup. Accordingly, when Devlin arrives at the mansion to check on Alicia, we're attached to him, to the point that the butler's explanations are heard off-screen as we study Devlin's reaction. But at the climax, Alex must be forced to confront the rough justice of his Nazi pals. So while Devlin waits, Hitchcock cuts to Sebastian's study. We're allowed to learn that the gang is already worried that Dr. Anderson has been followed by American agents. Just as important, the grim look that Eric Mathis gives Alex Sebastian suggests that he's already suspicious. This establishes Mathis as an adversary, a role that will be sharpened when he watches the nervous quartet descend the staircase. Speaking of staircases, they're extraordinarily common in American cinema of the 1940s. To a degree not seen in earlier films, major dramatic scenes are played up and down them. The Little Foxes provides many peak moments on a staircase, while in Possessed, the protagonist hallucinates killing her stepdaughter on one. The verticality of a stairway enables dynamic compositions in depth, and the characters can use steps to express domination over one another. Why so many stairs? I think the bigger budgets of the period enabled sets to be expanded upward to enhance scale and dramatic force. With more use of camera cranes, it was possible to put the camera quite high above ground level in interior sets. Whatever the cause, Hitchcock was no slouch with stairs. The most memorable early example in his 40s work is probably the shot showing the possibly homicidal husband in suspicion, slowly carrying a glowing glass of milk up to his stricken wife. But for me, the most exciting staircase sequence in Hitchcock is the one at the climax of Notorious. With only a little exaggeration, we can say it's Hitchcock's Odessa step sequence.
All right, dear, we're going.
As with the shifts in character perspective, we're prepared in doses. Early scenes in Alex Sebastian's mansion afford us glimpses of the staircase in the background. Hitchcock has shrewdly held back extreme long shots of the hallway so that he can hit us with the grandiloquent crane and zoom shot that opens the party sequence. Even here, though, the staircase is mostly a background element. Their central attraction is the key tightly held in Alicia's hand. Once the poisoning of Alicia starts, we're reintroduced to the staircase, this time through Alicia's optical viewpoint. She sees it, wavering and blurred as she starts to faint. She's taken upstairs to where Devlin will eventually find her. Now the staircase starts to play a central dramatic role. It's the path to her imprisonment, and in our climax, it's the path to her escape. After entering the household, Devlin notices a figure upstairs and decides to investigate. He sprints up the staircase. It takes him 8 seconds in a single shot. But when he walks Alicia down, accompanied by Alex and his mother, their descent takes 9 times longer, 72 seconds. This is not just because they walk more slowly. Hitchcock breaks the action into 39 shots of them and the Nazis watching from below. As in Eisenstein's battleship Potemkin, which used cutting to stretch the time the crowd needs to flee down the Odessa steps, Hitchcock rhythmically prolongs the action on his staircase. But Hitchcock is a little fussier than Eisenstein. He marks his character's progress step by step, and they move in unison. Every shot of Devlin, Alicia, Alex, or his mother is stressed by the character taking 1 or 2 steps down.
I'm not afraid to die.
Nearly all the shots range from 29 to 42 frames. That is, between a second and a second and a half of on-screen time. As a result, the shots feel more or less equal in length, and both movement and cutting give the scene a steady pulse.
To the hospital. Alex, talk to them, quick.
The swirling musical score lets the footsteps and the cuts provide a percussive beat. That pulse is enhanced by a brief line of dialogue or facial reaction in nearly every shot, a sort of chorus effect as characters respond quickly to each other and to the Nazis gathering below them. In the absence of dialogue that would overlap the cuts, the lines and the footsteps accentuate each shot as a crisp unit.
What happened, Alex?
At the climax, when Alex needs to speak up, the shots get even shorter until he finally blurts out, "She collapsed."
She collapsed.
This brings the rapid cutting to a cadence at the foot of the stairs. The steadily throbbing descent is much more gripping than an exit on a flat surface would be, with the group simply striding across the floor toward the doorway. Having established the staircase as a pathway to Alicia's bedroom, Hitchcock uses it as a set of steps that can create a drumbeat of suspense. How many steps do they take? I wish I could say 39, but I count just 26. The metronomic cutting in the staircase scene is one of Hitchcock's most virtuoso passages. But we've always known Hitchcock was a master of editing from his silent films onward. What we find in his Hollywood films, particularly those after Notorious, is a new reliance on long takes and camera movement. We might attribute some of this changed pace to Selznick, who considered Hitchcock's British style a bit too cutty. Selznick urged Hitchcock to rely less on close-ups and shots of single characters, and to use more elegant, gliding camera movements. While Hitchcock didn't immediately surrender his reliance on editing, his new fluency is particularly evident in Rebecca, Foreign Correspondent, and Shadow of a Doubt. In lengthening his shots, Hitchcock was also joining broader trends of his time. Several directors, notably Orson Welles, Preston Sturges, Otto Preminger, and Billy Wilder, were letting shots run unusually long. Notorious averages about 7 seconds across the whole film. The cuttiness that Selznick deplored serves to throw into relief the exceptionally protracted takes. We have the extravagantly long kissing scene, and in our specimen sequence, the shots in which Devlin declares his love and gathers Alicia for their escape. Once he lies with her on the bed, their exchange runs about 70 seconds, very long for a film of this period.
I couldn't get away from them.
The next shot, in which he pulls her up and embraces her while the camera circles them, consumes about half a minute. And they make their way to the door in the lengthiest shot of all, nearly 2 minutes of action that emphasize her fragility and his delicate urging of her forward. The 3-bedroom shots are signals of what Hitchcock would try in upcoming films. he entered the long take competition in a few scenes of the Paradine case of 1947. But that was just a prelude to the bold experiment of Rope in 1948, a thriller built out of only 11 shots. Under Capricorn of the following year contained more cutting, but it also included intricate camera movements that go on for minutes. In retrospect, Devlin and Alicia's reconciliation in the bedroom seems to set Hitchcock's compass for a line of stylistic expression he would pursue very soon. Whatever you think of those later films, it seems clear that in Notorious, his long takes and camera movement serve as finely judged effects. The lovers' reunion in a temporarily safe space is given in a sort of pictorial envelope, with the camera wrapping them in a moment of shared love. Like a slow musical passage that's broken by an allegro agitato, these delicate long takes increase the force of the character conflict and the tension-filled cutting we'll encounter on the staircase. More than any other director, Hitchcock exploited the technique of optical point of view. This involves framing an action as it would be seen by a character and then cutting to shots showing that character watching. It's a simple technique, but across his career, Hitchcock showed how efficient and involving it could be, and it's crucial to the sequence we're examining. The purest case is Rear Window of 1954. The entire plot is built around what the photojournalist Jeffries sees from his apartment while he's laid up with a broken leg. What advantages did Hitchcock find in optical POV technique? For one thing, it afforded a creative alternative to the most common tactics of staging and cutting a scene. Analytical editing was the norm in most of world cinema. That meant that a conversation scene would move from overall establishing shots to medium shots of actors, then closer views to show their facial expressions.
Up a great reputation.
Point of view cutting, while following this overall dynamic of analysis, made each image more emphatic, showing a character looking intently, a shot of information he or she was picking up, then a shot revealing the character's reaction. Like a novelist presenting a scene through the awareness of a character, optical POV focused the scene's action around the psychological currents at work. That can offer a certain economy, so that while dialogue or other action takes place off screen, the cutting can convey different story information. For instance, when Alex introduces his mother to Alicia, the older woman glides up to the camera, to Alicia and to us. This presents her as an ominous figure. Another advantage of this technique is that it can encourage us to align ourselves with one character or another. Even if we don't fully identify with the person looking, we are physically allied with them. That needn't necessarily lead to emotional sympathy, as when the butler Joseph keeps an eye on the champagne supply. But if we're already sympathetic to a character, optical POV can intensify that emotion. Finally, the economy and subjective impact of optical point of view involve a trade-off. By gaining a character's perspective on the action, we lose other perspectives. We're restricted to what that character sees and therefore knows, which may limit our understanding. As you'd expect, Hitchcock deploys his optical POV passages in a shrewd way, and their patterns culminate in the sequence we're considering. For the most part, Hitchcock gives each of his three main characters subjective cadenzas, always as a way of channeling the dynamics of the drama. Alicia comes first. We get her viewpoint as she's driving, with the wind blowing her hair in her eyes. Soon, the hungover Alicia opens her eyes to a canted view of Devlin in her doorway. As he advances, the image twists, mimicking the rotation of her head. Throughout the early stretches of the film, we look through Alicia's eyes when she spots Alex on the bridle path and warily watches Devlin at the races.
Skip it.
More importantly, we share her emotions as she visits the Sebastian household. She notices the fuss over the champagne bottle, emphasized by a track-in, and much later she fastens her attention on the Unica key. Devlin is given a snatch of optical POV during the wild car ride, but not until the bridle path scene do we get an emphatic return of it. He's forced to watch the reunion of Alicia and Alex from a distance. By attaching us to him, Hitchcock stresses his brooding jealousy, which will motivate him throughout the film. In addition, the restrictiveness of visual subjectivity means that he can't hear their conversation. How is she flirting with Alex? Cut off from the woman he can't admit he loves, he must helplessly watch a new couple forming. The bridle path scene is one of the film's POV nodes, the scenes in which we switch from one character's perspective to another's. A much bigger note is the grand party scene. It's structured for suspense as Alicia and Devlin meet under Sebastian's watchful eye. The point of view oscillates among all three characters. Devlin looks for a chance to get Alicia outside.
Yes. You better go out in the garden alone and wait around the back of the house for me, and I'll show you the wine cellar door.
She checks on the champagne supply. And we get Sebastian's wary concern upon seeing them together. At a critical point, as Alex approaches the cellar, Devlin stages a kiss that we see from Alex's viewpoint. We know he's being misled, but not completely, because Alicia is genuinely excited by Devlin's kiss. By showing the trick through Alex's eyes, I think Hitchcock summons up a little sympathy for him. He is a betrayed husband. As Alex's suspicion rises, the weight of the visual narration shifts to him. He discovers, again through optical POV, the return of the missing key and the traces of their investigation. Once husband and mother launch their poisoning scheme, Hitchcock can convey the effect on Alicia. We get her point of view when she realizes what's happening, and our sympathy is enhanced when her wooziness is presented from her standpoint. All of which makes our central scene, the rescue climax, another major POV node. The POV cutting is initiated when the Nazi leader Mathis glances suspiciously at Alex at his desk. Then Devlin, spotting movement upstairs, runs up the staircase. And crucially, the lovers' viewpoints interlock. Devlin sees Alicia in bed, and she sees him in a tipped framing that rhymes with her hangover shot. This merging of viewpoints forms a visual equivalence of their reuniting. But Hitchcock isn't finished. The climactic staircase descent plays as not only a drumbeat of cuts, but also as a fusillade of viewpoints.
Alicia.
For one thing, a descending camera movement suggests a staircase view of the waiting Nazis. Usually the shot is preceded by Sebastian watching apprehensively as he takes a step. For another thing, Hitchcock carefully calibrates shot scale, sometimes showing all four characters, sometimes showing only Alicia and Devlin, and sometimes concentrating on Devlin or Alex. Not all framings are strictly optical POV framings, but most of the single shots center on Alex seen approximately from Devlin's angle. Alex has to lie to save himself and his mother, but that would mean losing Alicia. His hesitation is one source of suspense. Interestingly, neither Alicia nor Mrs. Sebastian is granted an optical POV in this grand montage. This is a clash among the men, between Devlin and Alex, and between Alex and his associates. This rescue depends significantly on men staring their adversaries down.
Alex, talk to them quick.
The rescue of Alicia, then, isn't only the dramatic climax of Notorious, it's the stylistic climax as well, in its use of performance, snuggling and kissing, the swooning and brooding, as well as its cross-cutting, camera movements, and the viewpoint switches. It's a virtual masterclass in how film technique can excite an audience. It's a stylistic condensation of the whole movie.
You should not have waited so long, Alex.
And as if to drive home its powerful patterning, we get an ending that rhymes with the opening. The film had begun with a door opening and someone peeping in.
Yes, I have something to say.
Now it ends with a door closing. True, this time we get no access to what's happening behind that door. Yet the fact that we can make a good guess shows how carefully Hitchcock has taught us how to watch his extraordinary movie.